Good evening. It's very nice to be back here at Abhayagiri. I've actually been gone now for about the past 4 years, living in Thailand. So I've just returned here a few weeks ago. So it's very nice to be back here, and this is the place where I began as a monk about 10 years ago. So I still feel I have a very strong connection to this place, and I feel like this is a very special place for people to come to learn the practice of meditation and to learn how to make the mind peaceful. About 10 years ago, I first came here as a lay person, and I was looking for the same thing I think that everyone is looking for who comes to the teachings of the Buddha. We come looking for some kind of real internal happiness that we haven't been able to find in the world, and we come looking for a way to work with and go beyond our problems and our emotional suffering. So for myself, that was very much the case. Having been quite unhappy as a young person and feeling very lost in the world. So the teachings of the Buddha then were very attractive for me. They offered me something that I had not been able to find before, the possibility to actually experience internal happiness. So I think when I first came, I felt probably the same way that most Westerners do coming to the practice of meditation. I guess we kind of tend to think that it will be something that is kind of easy, and I think the most Westerners' idea of meditation is just kind of sitting down and closing your eyes and just letting all of your problems disappear and just experiencing great peace and happiness right away. But the reality for those of us who come here to really try to train ourselves and try to find that happiness, come to see very quickly that it's there's definitely nothing easy about it. And I think for many people that's actually probably quite frustrating, and I imagine that although meditation is very popular in the world today, in the Western world, but I imagine that very few people really practice it for a long time or really get anywhere with it, because if we're expecting that it will be something that will be easy, then almost certainly we'll be disappointed. And Lumpur Cha had a very nice simile illustrating this point. He said that it's like people from the city hear that mushrooms grow in the forest, so they want to go find some mushrooms, so they go out into the forest, but when they get there, they don't see any mushrooms, and they look around for a few minutes, but they still don't see any mushrooms. So in the end, they just kind of get frustrated, and they think there aren't actually any mushrooms here, and they just leave. And of course, the reality is that there are mushrooms in the forest, and there are a lot of mushrooms in the forest, but they're not easy to find. You have to have some kind of skill in finding them. And if you do have that skill, then they're readily available. But if you don't, it will seem impossible to find them. And this is most of our experience with meditation. We, in the beginning, expect that happiness and peace will just be kind of right there waiting for us as soon as we close our eyes. But the reality for almost all of us is that we're kind of like the people in the forest looking for something which we're sure is there, but we can't seem to find it at all. So the Buddha gave us an actual a path of practice that we can follow in order to find this happiness. So coming to this practice and being willing to really devote the time and the effort to work with our problems and work with our defilements. These negative emotions, negative emotional habits are the things which the Buddha said stand in our way of finding that happiness that we seek. In short, greed, hatred, delusion, desire, anger, fear, and all of the various negative emotions that cause us suffering. So we come to the practice looking for peace, but first we must learn how to deal with these negative habits that we have accumulated for many years and perhaps many lifetimes. So the Buddha has outlined a path for us to practice if we wish to train our minds, and the common kind of perception, I think, in the West as well, is that we kind of tend to think of meditation as kind of an external activity. So it's kind of like meditation is something you do when you sit down cross-legged and you close your eyes and maybe focus on the breath or use some kind of meditation technique. And then you kind of meditate for a while, and then at some point you get up and you go about your day, kind of working or going to different places, and then maybe at the end of the day, then you do some more meditation. So this is the common, I think, perception or view of meditation, especially in the West, as it's kind of like referring to an external activity. Whereas when we study the teachings of the Buddha, then it's very clear that the Buddha is pointing to something that actually we're supposed to be doing all of the time. So meditation, or what we usually translate as like cultivation, mental cultivation, is something that we have to be learning how to do all the time, from the moment that we wake up until the moment that we go to sleep. The defilements that are basically always present and will prevent us from finding happiness in meditation are always there all the time, preventing us from finding happiness during the day. And if we really want to learn how to wear them away and find that internal peace, then it's something that we have to be doing all of the time. And so the Buddha has given us a path which he called the gradual training, and people who read the scriptures, the suttas, can read this list over and over again. This is basically the list that the Buddha gave us for going from a completely unenlightened being to one who is fully enlightened. It's just from someone who has an incredible amount of suffering to someone who has gone beyond suffering. And there are many steps in that list, but of those involving the development of the mind, particularly through meditation, the step of really developing formal meditation like we do in a very deep way and experiencing very deep states of peace is something that's actually listed like in the middle of that list. So there are quite a few practices that come before that are kind of prerequisites for accessing deep states of peace in meditation. So if we don't kind of pay attention to those steps, then it will basically be impossible for us to really access a real peace and happiness in our practice. And particularly the two steps that precede formal practice are sati sampajanya and indriya samvara. We usually translate this as a mindfulness and clear comprehension and sense restraint. And so the first of these, mindfulness and clear comprehension, in summary is just kind of learning how to pay attention to the body at all times. So we have a very strong habit of, for the most part, living in our thoughts and our perceptions of the world and our thoughts of the past and the future, thoughts about the present. Emotions arise and we tend to be just overwhelmed by them, and we don't really have a way of working with them. So this first step is kind of a way of creating a foundation from which we can start to learn how to work with our emotions. And so long as we continue to live in our thoughts, then we tend to be kind of powerless to work with our emotions, because our emotions, for the most part, are based in the body and the feelings that are arising in the body. So that has to be the place where we kind of build our foundation in the practice. So this quality of mindfulness and clear comprehension, the Buddha basically defines as being aware of the body at all times through all of one's activities throughout the day. And the practical technique of developing strong mindfulness of the body, as is taught by most all of the great meditation masters in Thailand, is this technique of reciting the Buddha's name. So this is reciting to oneself throughout the day, just kind of silently, the word Buddho, or it can also be any other word or phrase as well. Is kind of a way of using a mantra to basically to change our habit from always living in our thoughts to be able to come more into the body and to develop this habit of always being present in the body. So in the beginning, when we come looking to be able to find happiness in meditation, then we have to start with this practice of just creating a foundation of mindfulness of the body. So we're instructed to repeat a meditation word like this just throughout the day, and to see if we can keep it going from the moment that we wake up all the way until the moment that we go to sleep. If we really put forth effort in this practice, then we will see over time that our habit will begin to change, our habit of where our attention tends to live. And instead of being, say, distracted all of the time and with a sense of kind of being lost and powerless against our emotions, we'll start to have much more of a sense of being grounded and having a foundation. And so this this foundation that we build with a technique like that then lets us to begin then working with our emotions, desire, anger, fear that arise throughout the day, and learning how to be present with our emotions in a balanced way in which we're not feeding them. We can develop, in this first practice of mindfulness of the body. It's possible to be mindful of the body and yet still be overwhelmed by our emotions when they arise. So this practice of indriya samvara, or sense restraint, and kind of learning how to, while inhabiting the body, learning how to not be overwhelmed by our emotions and not be moved by our emotions. And can remember reading the teaching of Lumpur Panyawado, one of the great disciples of Langtang Mahabua, who said when mindfulness of the body becomes constant, then that's when the battle against the defilements really begins. So this practice of sense restraint is really learning how to start working against our defilements, our negative emotional habits. And this is certainly something that we're all basically still working with here. It's something that in theory it sounds very simple, but of course it's extremely difficult, because our negative emotions have been empowered by us for a very long time. So they're extremely powerful, and they have an incredible momentum to them. So in the beginning, it will seem almost impossible to work with these things. The Buddha has encouraged us to work with a sense of balance when we're developing mindfulness of the body. So the Buddha has given us different techniques, like primarily working with the breath. The breath is a very soft object. So this is used when we want to kind of calm down the energy in the body, kind of try to bring the mind back to a place of balance if we're experiencing very high energy emotions like anger or restlessness. Using the breath to try to bring the mind back to a sense of balance. On the other side, then if the mind is pulled towards loose states of mind like dullness or laziness or depression, then learning how to use other feelings in the body, other sensations in the body that have the opposite effect. So instead of lowering the energy, more like raising the energy. And we can do this through using sensations of solidity in the body. It's the opposite of kind of the soft quality of the breath. Using sensations either where the where the body touches the floor is always a place of solidity. We can also use sensations in the hands, kind of with the kind of pressing, rubbing the fingers together, learning of different ways of creating sensations of solidity, which we can use to kind of lift the mind out of these loose states of mind. So in general, we're trying to bring the mind to a place of balance, and find that the more balanced that our mind becomes, then the more peaceful we feel, and our defilements are always trying to push us out of balance. So we all tend to we experience all of the defilements, but we have our own kind of particular temperaments. Some people tend to have a lot of energy, some people not a lot of energy, but we all tend to be kind of imbalanced in different ways. So that this practice is learning how to kind of wear away the emotions that constantly keep us off balance, and learning how to bring the mind more and more to a place of balance and inner peace. And the Buddha gave a number of similes to illustrate this idea of balance, and the Buddha's name for his path actually is the middle way. So this is kind of ultimately the place where we're aiming for is right in the middle of our emotions. So there's a well-known simile from the suttas of the Venerable Sona, who was a extremely energetic monk, and he, having recently ordained, he went off to live by himself and put forth an extreme amount of effort and meditation practice, and he did so much walking meditation that his feet were bleeding all over the walking path, and even though he had put forth this extreme effort, he realized that he hadn't really seen any kind of benefit from it at all, and feeling very frustrated, then he just decided to give up. And at that time the Buddha came to him and kind of asked him how he was doing, and when he explained his kind of situation to the Buddha, then the Buddha asked him, in the lay life, weren't you a musician? And then Sona says, yes. And the Buddha says, didn't you play the lute? Yes. When the strings of the lute were tuned too tightly, did they make a beautiful sound? No. When they were tuned too loosely, did it make a beautiful sound? No. what about when it was tuned just right? And of course, yes. So the Buddha encourages him, in the same way, to learn how to tune the mind so that it's neither too tight nor too loose, and to find the middle place of balance. So with that instruction, then Venerable Sona is able to realize enlightenment. Another very good simile that the Buddha gave on this this theme of balance then is the goldsmith or goldsmith's apprentice, who when he wants to make some kind of ornament from gold, then he first has to heat the gold over a fire, so that it will become soft, so then he can kind of mold it into the shape that he wants. So having put the gold over the fire, then he has to make sure that there's enough heat. If there's not enough heat, then the gold will never heat enough to become soft. But if there's too much heat, then the gold will kind of burn or become damaged. Putting the gold over the fire, then he watches, and if the flame is too low, he increases the heat. If it's too hot, then he sprinkles water onto the fire to kind of cool it down. And if it seems like it's just right, then he just watches on. So the Buddha said that this is the task of a meditator, is to be present with the body, with the feelings in the body, aware of the emotions that are trying to push us out of balance, desire, anger, fear, and the other negative emotions that arise, and learning how to respond in an appropriate way, so that if something like anger or restlessness is kind of really heating the mind up too much, then responding with something like attending to the breath in order to kind of cool the energy down. If the energy is too low, then learning how to increase the energy so that it's just enough. And so this is a practice that we do not only when we're sitting in formal meditation, but it also has to be a practice that we try to do throughout the day. And of course our the different states of suffering and unhappiness are not only present when we do formal meditation, but of course they're present all the time. And also our potential for being happy as well is also possible all of the time, not only in formal practice. So learning how to extend the practice into all of our activities, daily activities. Here, coming to ordain as a monk here, then this is our basic mental training of the mind. We have many other external activities and kind of ways of training ourselves, but all of the external practices that we do are also kind of feeding into this internal practice and providing an environment which is supportive for going against our defilements. I think pretty much all of us, have this experience of, maybe even after a number of years of practicing, then we still feel like we're really, going against the stream. This is one of the Buddhist simile for the practice. Is it's a practice that goes against the stream of the world, and against the stream of our defilements. Definitely going with the stream is very easy to do when we live in the world. It's very easy just to follow our habits. But of course, that doesn't bring us happiness. It just creates more and more unhappiness for us as we progress through our lives. So, coming to this practice is definitely not easy. It's going against all of the habits that we've kind of supported for so long. So I feel very happy to be back here now at Abhayagiri and have this opportunity to continue my training here. This place is very. It feels like a very special, very quiet place that we can come to in order to pursue this path at the deepest levels that are possible. Okay, thank you for listening. I think I'll just leave it there. Leave it there. Leave it there. Leave it there.